Picture this. You're sitting across from someone who just dismissed your idea like it was background noise. Again, your chest tightens, your mind races, and for the 100th time, you smile politely and let it slide. But here's what nobody tells you about that moment. Every time you swallow that disrespect, you're making a choice. Not just about them, about yourself, about your future, about who you're willing to become. What if I told you that the way people treat you isn't actually about them? It's about the invisible rule book you've been writing with every interaction, every boundary you didn't set, every line you let someone cross. And the best part? You can rewrite those rules starting right now. Not by becoming someone you're not, but by becoming exactly who you were meant to be before the world taught you to shrink. Stick with me, because by the end of this, you're going to understand something most people never figure out. Respect isn't something you chase. It's something you command simply by respecting yourself first. Chapter 1. The Hidden Cost of Accepting Disrespect. Let's talk about something nobody wants to admit. We've all been there, sitting in that moment where someone treats us like we don't matter, and we just take it. Maybe you tell yourself it's not worth the drama. Maybe you convince yourself you're being the bigger person. Maybe you're just so tired of fighting that you'd rather let it go. But here's the thing about accepting disrespect that nobody tells you. It's not free. There's a price tag attached to every time you smile through someone's condescension, every time you pretend that passive-aggressive comment didn't sting, every time you accept treatment you'd never tolerate if it happened to your best friend. The real cost isn't the momentary discomfort or even the hurt feelings. It's so much deeper than that. It's in the subtle erosion of who you are. Think about it like this. Imagine your self-respect is like a beautiful garden. Every time you let someone disrespect you, you're allowing weeds to grow. One weed doesn't destroy the garden, but week after week, month after month, those weeds spread. Before you know it, you can barely see the flowers anymore. You wake up one day and wonder why you feel so unlike yourself, why your confidence feels paper thin, why you second-guess every decision. Here's what happens when you consistently accept disrespectful treatment. And I want you to really hear this. First, your inner voice starts to betray you. Every time you fail to stand up for yourself, you send a quiet message to your subconscious. I guess I don't deserve better. Your brain is brilliant at pattern recognition. It notices that you don't defend yourself, and it starts believing maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe you really aren't worth defending. This internal shift is subtle but devastating. It shows up in how you walk into rooms, how you introduce yourself, how you negotiate your salary, how you show up in relationships. Second, and this one's going to sting, you become a target for exactly the wrong kind of people. It's like you develop this invisible signal that toxic people can somehow detect. They have this uncanny radar for individuals who won't push back. I'm not saying it's your fault. I'm saying there's a dynamic at play that you need to understand. When someone tests your boundaries and you don't enforce them, they've just learned something valuable. You're safe to mistreat. You become their go-to person for dumping their frustrations, their insecurities, their need to feel powerful. Meanwhile, and this is the part that really hurts, the people you actually want in your life start backing away. High-quality individuals, the ones with strong boundaries and healthy self-respect, they notice patterns. When they see you accepting poor treatment, they don't consciously judge you, but they unconsciously categorize you. They distance themselves because they protect it. Their energy and dysfunction drains energy. In professional settings, this plays out in heartbreaking ways. You get passed over for the promotion while your colleague, who demands respect, gets it, even though you do better work. You get assigned the projects nobody wants. You get paid less, not because you're less capable, but because you've inadvertently taught people that you don't value yourself highly enough to demand better. In relationships, romantic ones, friendships, family dynamics, accepting disrespect creates this toxic cycle. You resent the other person for how they treat you. They lose respect for you because of your lack of boundaries. The relationship becomes this painful dance where nobody's happy, but everyone keeps going through the motions. The psychological toll is where things get really serious. Chronic disrespect exposure leads to anxiety that feels like it came from nowhere, depression that you can't quite explain, a constant low-level stress that makes you feel like you're walking on eggshells in your own life. You start second-guessing yourself constantly. You develop this hypervigilance where you're always scanning for signs of disapproval or rejection. But here's where we need to shift the conversation, because there's something crucial you need to understand. Respect isn't earned through good behavior. Read that again. Respect isn't earned through being nice, working hard, or proving your worth. Respect is commanded through your standards and boundaries. People don't respect you because you're kind to them. They respect you because you respect yourself enough to require proper treatment. This is a fundamental shift that changes everything. When you start demanding respect, and yes, I mean demanding, not requesting, several things happen almost immediately. Some people will test you harder at first. They're used to the old version of you who accepted their behavior, and they don't like this new rule book. This initial pushback is actually a good sign. It means they're realizing the dynamic is changing. Some toxic people will remove themselves from your life voluntarily. And I know this might feel like a loss, but it's actually one of the biggest wins possible. They're clearing space for better people. Think of it as your garden self-weeding. And here's the beautiful part. New opportunities start appearing. Different people notice you. Better situations present themselves. Your energy shifts. You carry yourself differently, and life responds to that shift. The cost of accepting disrespect is literally your life trajectory. The benefit of demanding respect is access to the life you actually want. This isn't dramatic. It's just true. Your future self is watching you make this choice right now. Make the one they'll thank you for. Word count, Section 1, Chapter 1, 1,015 words. Chapter 2, Recognizing Disrespect in All Its Forms. Let me ask you something. Have you ever left a conversation feeling weird, but couldn't quite put your finger on why? Like something was off, but the person didn't yell at you or insult you directly? That's because most disrespect doesn't arrive with a neon sign. It's subtle, it's sneaky, and it's designed to make you question yourself rather than question the other person. This is the tricky part about handling disrespect. You first have to recognize it, and the subtle forms. They're actually more damaging than the obvious ones because they come with built-in plausible deniability. The person can always claim they didn't mean it that way, that you're overreacting, that you're too sensitive. Let's talk about what subtle disrespect actually looks like in real life. Think about the last time you were excited to share something. Maybe an idea in a brainstorming session or a story at dinner with friends. You start talking and someone just starts talking louder, right over you. Not once, but consistently. This isn't someone getting excited and accidentally interrupting. This is a pattern where your voice literally doesn't get to exist in the space. Or consider the dismissive response. You share a concern, something that genuinely matters to you, and you get back. You're overthinking it. It's really not that deep. I don't see what the big deal is. They're not engaging with what you said. They're dismissing your right to have the thought or feeling in the first place. Here's one that flies under the radar. Time disrespect. Someone who's chronically late to coffee dates with you but punctual with others. Someone who cancels plans last minute without real emergencies. Someone who makes you wait in their lobby while they finish up with other priorities. Your time is a direct reflection of your worth in someone's eyes. When they waste it consistently, they're sending a clear message. Then there's the exclusion pattern. You find out about the team lunch after it happened. You're somehow never in the loop about decisions that affect you, group chats that everyone else is in, but not you. And when you bring it up, oh, we thought you'd be busy. We didn't think you'd be interested. Once is an oversight. Repeatedly? That's deliberate. Micro-invalidations are these tiny paper cuts that add up to serious wounds. Someone always double-checking your work when they trust everyone else's. Asking if you're sure about information you're clearly qualified to provide. Explaining things to you they wouldn't explain to others at your level. Each individual moment seems too small to address. But cumulatively, they're positioning you as less competent. Credit theft shows up in professional environments, but also in friend groups and families. You suggest a restaurant for the group dinner, and someone else repeats it louder and gets credit. You solve a problem at work, and your manager presents it as their own insight. You share a personal story, and later, someone retells it as if it happened to them. Watch for the patronizing communication style. When someone talks to you like you're a child who needs basic concepts explained. When their tone drips with condescension even while their words are technically polite. When they use that particular voice that makes you feel small without them saying anything explicitly offensive. In our digital age, disrespect has evolved new forms. The person who responds to everyone else's messages within minutes but takes days with yours. The friend who likes everyone's posts except yours. The colleague who sends passive-aggressive emails with subtle digs buried in professional language. Physical boundary violations matter too. Someone who stands too close even after you step back. Someone who touches your arm or shoulder without invitation. Someone who positions themselves in ways that make you feel cornered or uncomfortable. Your physical space is just as sacred as your emotional space. Here's what I need you to understand. Trust your gut. If you consistently feel uncomfortable, diminished, or frustrated after interactions with someone, there's probably a pattern of disrespectful behavior happening. Don't let anyone convince you that you're being too sensitive. Your feelings are valid data about what's actually occurring. Start documenting patterns rather than dismissing individual incidents. Keep mental notes, or actual notes if needed, of when these behaviors happen, how often, and how they impact you. This serves two crucial purposes. It helps you see patterns you might miss in the moment, and it provides concrete evidence if you need to address the behavior formally or end a relationship. And here's something that matters more than most people realize. Intent doesn't override impact. Even if someone claims they didn't mean to be disrespectful, if their behavior consistently affects you negatively, it needs to be addressed. You don't have to accept poor treatment just because someone insists they didn't mean it that way. The key to recognizing disrespect is developing this internal radar that alerts you when something's off. The more you tune into it, the earlier you'll catch it, and the easier it is to address before patterns become entrenched. Word count. Chapter 2. 842 words. Running total. 1,857 words. Chapter 3. The psychology behind why people show disrespect. Okay, let's get real about something that's going to change how you see every disrespectful interaction. It's not about you. I know it feels personal. I know it hurts like it's personal. But here's the truth that's going to set you free. Disrespect is always about the person doing it. Always. Understanding this shifts everything, because once you see the psychological machinery driving disrespectful behavior, you can respond strategically instead of emotionally. You can protect yourself without taking the hit to your self-worth. So, why do people disrespect others? Let's break down the psychology. The most common driver is insecurity wearing a mask. Think about it. People who feel genuinely secure in their worth don't need to diminish others. The colleague who constantly undermines you, they're terrified you'll outshine them. The friend who makes subtle digs about your success, they're struggling with their own perceived failures. When someone consistently disrespects you, ask yourself, what are they insecure about? What do you have or represent that threatens their sense of self? Understanding their insecurity doesn't mean excusing their behavior. It means seeing clearly so you can respond effectively. Power dynamics play a huge role. Some people learned early that life is a zero-sum game. For them to have respect, others must have less. This is especially common in competitive environments like corporate hierarchies or within families where there's limited approval to go around. They use disrespect as a tool to establish dominance, to maintain their position in the pecking order. Then there's learned behavior. Many disrespectful people learned these patterns in childhood. If you grew up in a home where disrespect was the baseline communication style, you might replicate it without even realizing it's problematic. You're just doing what you saw modeled. This explains behavior, but doesn't excuse it. Awareness requires change. Boundary testing is fascinating from a psychological perspective. Humans unconsciously test boundaries to understand social dynamics and power structures. Some people are chronic boundary testers. They'll keep pushing until they hit firm resistance. If you don't establish clear limits early in any relationship, you're inviting this testing behavior. Control issues drive a lot of disrespect. People who feel out of control in their own lives often try to control others to feel more secure. They interrupt to control conversations. They dismiss your ideas to control decisions. They violate your time to control your schedule. Their disrespect is about their desperate need for control, not about you. Fear of abandonment can paradoxically manifest as disrespectful behavior. Some people push others away before they can be rejected. It's a self-protective mechanism that actually sabotages relationships. They'd rather create distance through disrespect than risk genuine connection and potential hurt. Narcissistic tendencies, and I'm not talking clinical narcissism, just narcissistic traits, contribute significantly to disrespect. People with these traits genuinely believe they're more important than others. To them, disrespecting you isn't morally wrong. It's just the natural order, where their needs take priority. Stress and overwhelm can turn normally respectful people temporarily disrespectful. When someone's in survival mode, they often default to behaviors they wouldn't normally display. This doesn't excuse it, but it explains why someone who usually treats you well might suddenly become short or dismissive. Jealousy and competition fuel a lot of workplace and social disrespect. If someone sees you as a threat to their position, recognition, or success, they might engage in disrespectful behavior to undermine you. This is especially common where resources, promotions, attention, opportunities are limited. Past trauma can manifest as disrespectful behavior. People who've been hurt sometimes develop defensive mechanisms that involve being disrespectful before they can be hurt again. It's maladaptive, but it's a coping strategy born from pain. Here's why understanding all this matters. It gives you power. When you know someone's disrespect comes from their insecurity, you can respond with confidence instead of defensiveness. When you recognize boundary testing, you can set clear limits immediately. When you understand someone's trying to control you, you can refuse to play that game. This psychological understanding isn't about becoming someone's therapist or tolerating poor treatment because you understand its source. Your job isn't to fix them. Your job is to protect yourself while responding strategically. When you stop taking disrespect personally and start seeing it as information about the other person's psychology, everything changes. You become immune to the emotional manipulation. You respond from strength rather than wound. And that's when you truly become someone who commands respect. Chapter 4. Setting immediate boundaries. When disrespect occurs, here's something crucial. The moment disrespect happens is the moment you must act. Not tomorrow. Not after you've thought about it. Not after you've discussed it with 3 friends. Right then. Delayed responses to disrespect are read as acceptance, and acceptance guarantees repetition. Most people freeze when disrespect happens because they're caught off guard. They want to avoid conflict, or they convince themselves addressing it will make things worse. But here's the truth. Silence in the face of disrespect is agreement. Your non-response becomes permission. Immediate boundary setting serves 3 critical functions. It stops the behavior in real time, it signals to everyone watching that you have standards, and it preserves your self-respect because you're honoring yourself in the moment. The key is remaining calm, direct, and non-negotiable. Your emotional state determines whether your boundary lands with power or falls flat. Respond with anger, and they'll call you unstable. Respond with hurt, and they'll call you sensitive. But respond with calm assertiveness? You maintain all the power. When someone interrupts you, stop mid-sentence, make eye contact, and say, "Hold on, I wasn't finished." No smile, no apology, just fact. If they keep talking, you escalate. "I need you to let me complete my thought." Then wait in silence until they stop. When someone dismisses your perspective, address it specifically. "My viewpoint deserves consideration here." Or simply, "That's not for you to decide." Don't debate. State the boundary and move forward. For chronic lateness, implement consequences immediately. Start without them. Reschedule for your convenience, not theirs. When they arrive late, acknowledge it. "I value my time, so I've started. We can catch you up briefly." The language matters. Eliminate weak phrases like, "I feel like maybe you could." Use direct statements. "I need." "I expect." That's not acceptable. Here's what happens next. Your body language must match your words. Eye contact. Upright posture. Calm but firm tone. Don't smile unless genuinely appropriate. Smiling undermines serious boundaries. Expect pushback. People accustomed to disrespecting you won't appreciate the change. They'll test harder initially. This is normal. Stay consistent. Don't negotiate. Your boundaries aren't up for debate. Practice responses before you need them. Most people struggle in the moment because they don't know what to say. Rehearse mentally, so when disrespect happens, your response flows naturally. Remember, setting immediate boundaries is an investment in every future interaction with that person. The temporary discomfort of addressing it now saves you from months or years of repeated disrespect. Word count. Chapter 4. 441 words. Running total, 3,120 words. Chapter 5. Strategic responses for different types of disrespectful people. Not all disrespectful people operate the same way, which means your response strategy needs to adapt. Using the wrong approach can backfire spectacularly. Using the right one, problem solved. The aggressive intimidator uses volume and hostility to control situations. They've learned most people back down when faced with anger. Your response: stay calm and lower your voice. I need you to lower your voice if we're continuing this conversation. If they don't comply, end it. We'll continue when you're ready to speak respectfully. Then leave. Never match their energy. That's what they want. The passive-aggressive manipulator uses sarcasm, silent treatment, and subtle sabotage while maintaining deniability. Your response? Call it out directly. That sounded sarcastic. What did you actually mean? Force them into direct communication. They rely on staying indirect because confrontation makes them uncomfortable. The narcissistic controller believes they're superior and expects accommodation. Your response: focus on facts and consequences, not feelings. They don't care how you feel. Set clear expectations. If you interrupt again, I'm ending this meeting. Then follow through immediately. The insecure competitor sees every interaction as a competition they must win. Your response? Refuse to compete. When they try to one-up you, simply say, "Interesting," and redirect. Don't prove yourself. Your confidence without competition is your power. The boundary tester pushes limits constantly to see what they can get away with. Your response? Absolute consistency. Every single time. No exceptions. The moment you make one exception, you've taught them your boundaries are negotiable. The emotional manipulator uses guilt, tears, and personal drama to control situations. Your response: separate emotions from the issue. I understand you're upset, but we still need to address the missed deadline. Don't let their emotional display derail accountability. The key with all these types: stay emotionally regulated while being strategically assertive. Their behavior reveals their issues, not your worth. Respond to the psychology, not the provocation. Chapter 6: The Power of Strategic Withdrawal and When to Use It. Let's talk about something that might sound counterintuitive. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away. I'm not talking about running from conflict or avoiding difficult conversations. I'm talking about strategic withdrawal, a calculated decision to remove your energy, presence, and attention from someone who's demonstrated they don't value you. Most people struggle with this concept because we've been taught that walking away means giving up or letting the other person win. But flip that thinking on its head. When you strategically withdraw from someone who disrespects you, you're not surrendering. You're taking back your power and forcing them to experience the consequences of their behavior. Strategic withdrawal works because it removes what disrespectful people need most: your reaction. Toxic individuals feed on drama, conflict, and the emotional responses they trigger. When you stop providing that fuel, their behavior becomes pointless. It's like they're performing for an empty theater. Here's what strategic withdrawal looks like in practice. In professional environments, it might mean limiting interactions to email only with someone who consistently bulldozes you in person. This creates documentation and removes their opportunity to interrupt or intimidate. Or maybe you stop volunteering for projects involving that person. You become professionally cordial, but completely unavailable beyond minimum required interaction. For colleagues who steal your credit, stop the collaboration entirely. No more sharing ideas in casual conversations. No more helping with their projects. No more being available for their questions. You become politely distant. With friends who consistently violate your boundaries, strategic withdrawal means declining invitations, reducing contact frequency, and no longer sharing personal information they've proven they can't be trusted with. You're not cutting them off with drama. You're just becoming less available. In romantic relationships where disrespect has become a pattern, this might mean creating physical space to allow for reflection and genuine change, not as a manipulation tactic, but as genuine self-protection. The timing matters enormously. Strategic withdrawal should happen after you've clearly communicated your boundaries and given the person opportunity to change. It's not a first response. It's what you do when other approaches have failed or when the disrespect is so severe that immediate distance is necessary. Before implementing withdrawal, prepare yourself for potential consequences. Some people will escalate their behavior when they realize you're pulling away. Others will try manipulation, promising to change, claiming you're being unfair, attempting to guilt you into returning. You need mental and emotional preparation to maintain your boundaries regardless of their response. Here's what's crucial. Strategic withdrawal requires genuinely letting go of the outcome. You can't withdraw while secretly hoping they'll chase you or dramatically change. This only works when you're focused on protecting yourself rather than controlling their response. When you implement strategic withdrawal correctly, several things typically happen. First, immediate relief. You're no longer subjecting yourself to ongoing disrespect. Second, you create space for better people and opportunities. Third, you gain clarity about the relationship and realize how much their behavior was affecting your mental health. Some people will respond by attempting to re-engage with improved behavior. This is where you need extreme caution. Don't rush back just because someone temporarily improves. Sustainable change takes time to demonstrate. Require consistent, respectful behavior over an extended period before considering returning to previous interaction levels. Others will respond with anger or attempts to make you feel guilty. They might call you dramatic, immature, or unfair. This response actually confirms your withdrawal was necessary. People who truly respect you will understand your need for space and work to address the issues. Strategic withdrawal becomes permanent separation when someone demonstrates unwillingness or inability to change. This is often the healthiest outcome, even though it's emotionally difficult. Removing toxic people creates space for relationships that enhance your well-being. Remember, strategic withdrawal is an act of self-respect. You're not obligated to maintain relationships with people who consistently disrespect you, regardless of history or their role in your life. Your mental health and boundaries matter more than preserving damaging relationships. Word count. Chapter 6. 703 words. Running total. 703 words. Chapter 7. Building unshakable inner confidence that commands respect. External strategies for handling disrespect are important, but they only work when backed by genuine inner confidence. People sense authentic confidence the moment you walk into a room, and they instinctively respond with respect. Conversely, people also detect insecurity and uncertainty, which invites testing and disrespectful behavior. Building unshakable confidence is the foundation that makes every other strategy work. But here's what confidence really is. It's not arrogance, aggression, or believing you're better than others. True confidence is having deep, unshakable knowledge of your own worth that doesn't depend on external validation. When you possess this kind of confidence, other people's opinions become interesting information rather than threats to your sense of self. First, understand the difference between self-esteem and self-respect. Self-esteem fluctuates based on circumstances, achievements, and how others treat you. Self-respect remains constant regardless of external circumstances. It's how you treat yourself. People with high self-respect command respect from others because they demonstrate through their actions that they value themselves. Self-respect shows up in the standards you set for your own behavior and what you require from others. When you consistently act aligned with your values, keep promises to yourself, and refuse poor treatment, you build a foundation of self-respect that naturally radiates confidence. Develop what psychologists call an internal locus of control. This means believing you have power to influence your circumstances through your choices and actions. People with external locus of control believe their lives are determined by luck, other people's decisions, or circumstances beyond their control. This mindset creates victim mentality and invites disrespect. Focus on what you can control. You can't control others' behavior, but you can control your responses. You can't control whether you get promoted, but you can control your work quality and professional development. You can't control whether someone likes you, but you can control whether you like and respect yourself. Eliminate the habit of seeking external validation. Many people unconsciously seek approval before feeling good about their choices or accomplishments. This creates dependency, where your confidence is hostage to others' opinions. True confidence means making decisions based on your own values and judgment, then standing behind those decisions regardless of reactions. Build competence in areas that matter to you. It's difficult to feel confident when you know you're unprepared or lacking skills. Invest in developing expertise in your field, improving communication skills, and building knowledge in areas you're passionate about. Competence creates confidence, and confidence commands respect. Your physical presence matters significantly. Posture, eye contact, vocal tone, and movement all communicate confidence levels. Practice standing tall with shoulders back, making direct eye contact during conversations, speaking clearly at appropriate volume, and moving with purpose. These physical changes actually create psychological changes that increase confidence over time. Use mental rehearsal. Visualize yourself handling disrespectful behavior with calm assertiveness. See yourself setting boundaries clearly and following through on consequences. Imagine walking into rooms with confidence and engaging as an equal. This mental practice prepares your subconscious for success and makes confident behavior more automatic. Challenge negative self-talk. Most people have an internal critic constantly undermining their confidence. You're not good enough. They probably think you're stupid. You don't deserve better. These thoughts become self-fulfilling prophecies. Start paying attention to your internal dialogue and actively challenge thoughts that undermine confidence. Ask if these thoughts are based on facts or fears. Look for evidence contradicting negative assumptions. Surround yourself with people who treat you with respect and support your growth. If you're constantly around people who criticize, dismiss, or undermine you, maintaining strong confidence is nearly impossible. Conversely, when you're around people who appreciate your strengths and encourage development, your confidence naturally grows. Take calculated risks and embrace failure as learning. Confidence grows through experience, and experience requires action despite uncertainty or fear. Start with small risks in low-stakes situations and gradually work up to bigger challenges. Each time you survive a setback or learn from a mistake, you build evidence that you can handle whatever life throws at you. Celebrate your accomplishments and progress, even small ones. Many people dismiss achievements or immediately focus on the next goal without acknowledging what they've accomplished. This undermines confidence by training your brain to overlook evidence of your capabilities. Make it practice to acknowledge wins, learn from experiences, and appreciate your development. Finally, understand that confidence is a practice, not a destination. You don't arrive at confidence and maintain it effortlessly. It requires ongoing attention and development. Some days, you'll feel more confident than others, and that's normal. The goal is building a foundation of self-respect that remains stable even when confidence fluctuates. When you develop genuine, unshakable confidence, everything changes. People respond differently because you're operating from fundamentally different energy. You stop seeking approval and start offering value. You stop accepting poor treatment and start expecting respect. Most importantly, you stop depending on others for your worth and start generating that worth from within. Chapter 8. Handling disrespect in family relationships and close personal bonds. Family relationships present unique challenges when handling disrespect because of emotional history, expectations, and social pressures. Many people accept treatment from family members they'd never tolerate from strangers. This happens because of misguided beliefs about family loyalty, guilt about setting boundaries with relatives, and the assumption that family dynamics can't or shouldn't change. But here's the truth. Respect is just as important in family relationships as anywhere else. Maybe more important, because family disrespect often starts in childhood and creates patterns affecting all your other relationships. One of the biggest obstacles is the cultural narrative that family relationships should be preserved at all costs. You've heard the phrases, "Blood is thicker than water." They're family, so you have to forgive them. That's just how they are. These beliefs create guilt when family members treat you poorly because you're caught between your need for respect and social expectations about loyalty. The reality? Healthy family relationships are built on mutual respect, just like any healthy relationship. Being related doesn't give someone permission to treat you poorly, and it doesn't obligate you to accept disrespectful behavior. Family disrespect often takes specific forms. Emotional manipulation is extremely common. Family members using guilt, shame, or emotional blackmail to control your behavior. "After everything I've done for you, you're being selfish." These statements come out when you set boundaries or make decisions they don't like. Invalidation of your feelings and experiences is another pattern. Family might dismiss your concerns. "You're too sensitive." "That's not how it happened." "You're remembering it wrong." This gaslighting is particularly damaging because it makes you question your own reality. Boundary violations are frequent because of assumptions that family should have unlimited access to each other. Showing up unannounced, going through personal belongings, sharing your private information, or making decisions about your life without consulting you. Comparison and competition create another form of family disrespect. Your achievements get minimized, struggles dismissed, or you're constantly compared unfavorably to other family members. This behavior maintains family hierarchies and keeps certain members in subordinate positions. When addressing family disrespect, separate your love for the person from acceptance of their behavior. You can love someone deeply while refusing to tolerate their disrespectful treatment. Setting boundaries often improves family relationships by creating healthier dynamics based on mutual respect. Start by identifying specific disrespectful behaviors needing change. Family dynamics are complex and long-standing, making it easy to feel overwhelmed. Focus on the most problematic behaviors first and address them one at a time. Communicate your boundaries clearly and calmly without lengthy explanations. Family members are experts at your emotional triggers, and will try to derail boundary-setting conversations by bringing up the past, making you feel guilty, or claiming you're hurting them. Stay focused. For example, if a family member consistently criticizes your life choices, I need you to stop making negative comments about my career decisions. If you can't support my choices, let's not discuss them. Be prepared for escalation when you start setting boundaries. They're used to old dynamics and will often increase problematic behavior when you push back. This is called an extinction burst in psychology. Behavior gets worse before it gets better. Stay consistent. Don't give in. Family members might recruit others to pressure you into backing down. They might complain to other relatives about how you're treating them, or try getting others to convince you you're being unreasonable. Don't engage in these triangulation dynamics. Address issues directly with the person involved. Sometimes family disrespect is so severe or long-standing that temporary or permanent distance is necessary. This is incredibly difficult and often comes with guilt, grief, and social judgment. However, your mental health and well-being are more important than maintaining relationships that consistently damage you. If you decide to limit contact, be clear about your reasons and expectations for future contact. I need to take a break from our relationship until you're willing to treat me with respect. I'm open to rebuilding when that changes. Understand that some family members will never change regardless of how clearly you communicate boundaries or how consistently you enforce consequences. This is painful to accept, but important to base decisions on reality rather than hope. Focus on building strong relationships with family members who do treat you with respect. Not all family relationships are toxic. Nurture healthy connections while protecting yourself from unhealthy ones. This might mean spending holidays with chosen family or relatives who appreciate you. Remember that healing from family disrespect often requires professional support. Family dynamics are complex, and emotional patterns created in childhood can be difficult to change without guidance. Consider working with a therapist specializing in family relationships and boundary setting. Setting boundaries with family is an act of love for yourself and potentially for the relationship. When you stop enabling disrespectful behavior and start requiring better treatment, you create possibility for healthier, more authentic relationships based on mutual respect rather than manipulation and control. Chapter 9. Recovering Your Self-Worth. After prolonged, disrespectful treatment. When you've been subjected to prolonged, disrespectful treatment, whether in relationships, family dynamics, or professional situations, the damage goes far beyond immediate interactions. Chronic disrespect creates deep wounds in your sense of self-worth that persist long after the treatment ends. Recovery requires intentional effort to rebuild your self-concept and heal psychological damage that accumulates from being consistently devalued. First, understand how prolonged disrespect affects your psychology. When you're repeatedly told your thoughts don't matter, your feelings are invalid, or your contributions aren't valuable, your brain starts accepting these messages as truth. This is called learned helplessness. You internalize the belief that you're powerless to change circumstances or somehow deserve poor treatment. Chronic disrespect also creates complex trauma. Unlike single-incident trauma, complex trauma results from repeated exposure to harmful experiences over time. Symptoms include chronic shame, difficulty trusting your judgment, emotional dysregulation, and problems with self-identity. One of the most insidious effects is how it rewires your internal dialogue. After months or years of criticism, dismissal, or invalidation, you develop an internal critic, sounding exactly like the people who mistreated you. This inner voice becomes automatic and persistent, undermining confidence and perpetuating damage long after the external source is gone. Recovery begins with recognizing that the treatment you received wasn't a reflection of your worth. This sounds simple, but is often the most difficult part because disrespectful messages have become deeply embedded in your self-concept. Start by identifying specific negative beliefs about yourself that developed during the disrespectful treatment. Common examples: my opinions don't matter. I'm not smart enough. I don't deserve better. I'm too sensitive. Write these down and examine them objectively. Ask if these beliefs were true before the treatment began. Look for evidence contradicting these assessments. Rebuilding self-worth requires creating new evidence contradicting the negative messages you internalized. Take actions demonstrating your value, competence, and worthiness of respect. Start with small accomplishments you can build on. Complete projects successfully. Learn new skills. Help others. Make decisions that turn out well. Practice self-compassion during recovery. Many people who've experienced prolonged disrespect become very hard on themselves, expecting perfect healing or becoming frustrated with the time it takes. Treat yourself with the same kindness you'd show a good friend recovering from similar experiences. Reconnect with your authentic self by exploring interests, values, and preferences without influence from people who disrespected you. Prolonged disrespect often involves others telling you what you should think, feel, or want. You might have lost touch with authentic preferences. Spend time figuring out what you actually enjoy, what matters to you, and what kind of life you want. Surround yourself with people who treat you with respect and appreciation. This is crucial for recovery because you need to experience healthy interactions to recalibrate expectations and self-worth. If you've been isolated or your social circle was contaminated by disrespectful people, actively seek new relationships and communities where you can experience being valued. Set small, achievable boundaries as practice for rebuilding assertiveness after prolonged disrespect. Many struggle with boundary setting because confidence has been eroded. Start with low-stakes situations where you can practice saying no, expressing preferences, or requesting respectful treatment. Work on rebuilding decision-making confidence. Prolonged disrespect often involves others controlling or criticizing your decisions, leaving you doubting your judgment. Start making small decisions independently and notice outcomes. When decisions turn out well, acknowledge your good judgment. When they don't, view them as learning experiences rather than evidence of incompetence. Celebrate your progress and acknowledge your strength. Surviving prolonged disrespectful treatment requires enormous resilience. Even if you don't feel strong right now, recognize that your survival itself is an accomplishment. Consider professional help if effects of prolonged disrespect significantly impact your life. Therapy can be particularly helpful for processing complex trauma, developing healthy coping strategies, and rebuilding sense of self. Be patient with the recovery process. Rebuilding self-worth after prolonged disrespect doesn't happen overnight. There will be good days and bad days, moments of clarity and periods of doubt. This is normal. Focus on overall trajectory of healing rather than expecting linear progress. Remember that recovery isn't just about returning to your pre-trauma state. The goal is emerging from this experience stronger, wiser, and more resilient than before. Many who successfully recover report developing deeper self-respect, stronger boundaries, and better relationships than they had before the traumatic experiences. The most important thing, you deserve to be treated with respect, kindness, and consideration. This isn't something you need to earn through perfect behavior or exceptional achievements. Respect is a basic human right you deserve simply because you exist. Your worth is inherent and unchangeable, regardless of how others have treated you. Chapter 10. Advanced Psychological Strategies for Commanding Influence. Once you've mastered the basics of handling disrespect and building personal boundaries, you can begin implementing advanced psychological strategies that not only protect you from disrespectful treatment, but actually position you as someone who naturally commands respect and influence. These techniques are based on deep principles of human psychology and social dynamics that most people don't understand or utilize effectively. The foundation of advanced influence is understanding that respect is fundamentally about perceived value and status. People naturally defer to those they perceive as valuable, competent, and confident. The key word here is perceived, because respect is based more on social perception than objective reality. This doesn't mean being fake or manipulative. It means understanding how to present your authentic value in ways others naturally recognize and respond to. One of the most powerful psychological principles is social proof and authority. People look to others for cues about how to behave and whom to respect. When you consistently demonstrate that others treat you with respect, new people in your environment automatically adopt the same respectful stance. This is why it's crucial to never accept disrespectful treatment in public settings. Every person who witnesses you accepting poor treatment learns that such treatment is acceptable with you. The strategic use of contrast is another advanced technique. When you consistently maintain high standards for how you're treated while remaining calm and professional, you create a stark contrast with people who are emotionally reactive, accept poor treatment, or engage in drama. This contrast makes you appear more composed, competent, and worthy of respect by comparison. Controlled vulnerability is a sophisticated influence strategy where you selectively share personal information or admit limitations in ways that actually increase your credibility and influence. Most people think showing any weakness diminishes authority, but strategic vulnerability can enhance it. When you acknowledge a minor flaw or limitation while demonstrating overall competence, people perceive you as more honest and trustworthy, which increases their respect for you. The principle of reciprocity can be leveraged strategically by offering value to others before requesting anything in return. However, Advanced practitioners understand that not all forms of value giving are equally effective. The most influential approach is offering something that requires your unique skills or knowledge, demonstrates your competence, and creates a sense of indebtedness without being manipulative about it. Strategic scarcity involves making your time, attention, and availability appropriately limited rather than being constantly accessible to everyone. This doesn't mean being artificially unavailable or playing games, but rather being genuinely selective about how you invest your energy. When people have to earn your time and attention, they value it more highly and treat you with greater respect. The use of presupposition in communication is an advanced technique where you speak in ways that assume respect and cooperation rather than requesting or demanding it. Instead of saying, "Could you please not interrupt me?" you might say, "I'll finish this thought and then get your input." This subtle shift presupposes the person will wait for you to finish, rather than positioning their interruption as an option you're trying to discourage. Frame control is perhaps the most sophisticated psychological strategy for commanding respect. This involves consistently interpreting interactions and situations through a frame that positions you as valuable and worthy of respect. When someone tries to diminish you or test your boundaries, you reframe their behavior in a way that maintains your dignity and status. For example, if someone's consistently late to meetings with you instead of complaining about their lateness, you might say, "I know you're juggling a lot, so let's make our time together count." The strategic use of silence is another powerful tool most people underutilize. Comfortable silence after making a point, asking a question, or setting a boundary creates psychological pressure for the other person to respond thoughtfully rather than reactively. Many people rush to fill silence because it makes them uncomfortable. But learning to be comfortable with silence gives you significant psychological leverage in interactions. Understanding and utilizing the principle of commitment and consistency allows you to influence others' behavior by getting them to make small commitments that align with treating you respectfully. When people make a commitment, even a small one, they feel psychological pressure to remain consistent with that commitment. This might involve getting someone to agree to specific communication standards or behavioral expectations, which then makes it harder for them to violate those standards later. Emotional regulation under pressure is a crucial advanced skill that sets respected individuals apart from those easily dismissed. When you can remain calm, thoughtful, and composed, even when others are being disrespectful or trying to provoke you, it demonstrates a level of self-control and confidence that naturally commands respect. This doesn't mean being emotionless, but rather being in control of your emotional responses. The principle of strategic alliance building involves identifying and cultivating relationships with influential people who can support your position and status within various environments. This isn't about using people, but rather about building mutually beneficial relationships with individuals whose support enhances your credibility and influence. When respected people treat you with respect, others follow their lead. Advanced boundary. Enforcement goes beyond simply stating your limits to creating systems and consequences that automatically protect your boundaries without requiring constant vigilance. This might involve structuring your environment, relationships, and commitments in ways that make boundary violations less likely to occur and easier to address when they do happen. Finally, the mastery of what psychologists call meta-communication allows you to address relationship dynamics and communication patterns directly rather than just responding to surface-level content. This involves making observations about how conversations are going, pointing out patterns in interactions, and addressing underlying issues that affect how people treat each other. These advanced strategies require practice and refinement over time. They're most effective when used authentically and ethically, rather than as manipulation tactics. The goal is to position yourself as someone who naturally commands respect while maintaining your integrity and treating others fairly. When implemented correctly, these techniques create an environment where disrespectful behavior toward you becomes socially awkward and psychologically uncomfortable for others, naturally reducing its occurrence. You're not just defending against disrespect anymore. You're creating conditions where respect becomes the automatic, obvious response to who you are and how you operate. Chapter 11. Creating a reputation that precedes you. Your reputation is one of your most valuable assets when it comes to commanding respect. People form expectations about how to treat you based on what they've heard before they even meet you. When you have a reputation as someone who maintains high standards and doesn't tolerate disrespectful treatment, most people will automatically treat you with respect from the very first interaction. Building this kind of reputation requires consistency over time and strategic thinking about how your actions and responses will be perceived and discussed by others. Every interaction you have is potentially being observed by people who will carry that information into other contexts. This doesn't mean being paranoid or inauthentic. It means being intentional about maintaining your standards even when you think no one important is watching. The foundation of a respect-commanding reputation is reliability in your standards. People need to know that you always maintain certain boundaries and expectations regardless of the situation or people involved. When word gets around that you consistently refuse to accept certain types of treatment, people stop testing those boundaries because they know what the outcome will be. The way you speak about yourself and others contributes significantly to your reputation. People who command respect speak about their accomplishments without false modesty, but also without arrogance. They acknowledge strengths while being honest about areas for improvement. They speak about others fairly and avoid participating in gossip or petty complaints, which positions them as trustworthy and mature. How you handle conflict becomes part of your reputation narrative. When you can disagree with someone's ideas without attacking them personally, when you can stand firm on important issues while remaining respectful, and when you can navigate difficult conversations without becoming emotionally dysregulated, people recognize you as someone who can be trusted with important matters. Your reputation also includes how you treat people who can't do anything for you. The way you interact with service workers, those in junior positions, or people outside your social circle says more about your character than how you treat people in positions of power. The stories people tell about you become your reputation. When you handle disrespectful situations with grace and effectiveness, those stories get repeated and enhance your reputation. When someone tries to disrespect you publicly and you respond with calm assertiveness that makes them reconsider, that story becomes part of your legacy. Quality associations enhance your reputation significantly. When respected individuals choose to work with you, recommend you, or include you in important activities, their reputation lends credibility to yours. Your reputation should include being known as someone who adds value to situations and relationships. When people know that your involvement will improve outcomes, they naturally treat you with more respect and deference. Protection of your reputation requires saying no to opportunities, relationships, or behaviors that might compromise your standing. This might mean declining projects you can't execute well, avoiding social situations where you might be pressured to compromise your standards, or ending relationships with people whose behavior reflects poorly on your judgment. Remember that reputation building is a long-term strategy requiring patience and persistence. You can't force people to respect you through manipulation or self-promotion, but you can create conditions where respect becomes the natural and logical response to who you are and how you operate. Chapter 12. The mindset of someone who never tolerates disrespect. The ultimate goal of learning to handle disrespectful people is to develop a mindset where disrespectful treatment becomes so foreign to your experience that it rarely occurs. And when it does, you handle it so effortlessly that it has no impact on your confidence or well-being. This mindset shift represents a fundamental transformation in how you see yourself, how you interact with the world, and how the world responds to you. People who never tolerate disrespect operate from a deep, unshakable knowledge of their own worth that doesn't depend on external validation or circumstances. They don't need to prove their value to others because they know their value intrinsically. This inner certainty creates an energy that others can sense and naturally respond to with respect. This mindset includes the understanding that how others treat you is information about them, not about you. When someone is disrespectful, people with this mindset don't take it personally or wonder what they did wrong. They recognize that disrespectful behavior reveals the other person's character, emotional state, or personal issues. This perspective allows them to respond strategically rather than emotionally. The expectation of respect becomes so natural that alternatives don't even register as possibilities. Just as you wouldn't expect someone to walk into your home and start breaking your furniture, people with this mindset don't expect others to violate their emotional or psychological boundaries. Emotional immunity to disrespect develops when you truly understand that someone else's poor behavior has no bearing on your worth or identity. Insults bounce off. Dismissive behavior feels irrelevant. Attempts at manipulation seem almost childish. This immunity doesn't come from building walls or becoming emotionally numb. It comes from having such a solid sense of self that external negativity can't penetrate your core identity. The response repertoire becomes automatic and effortless. Instead of having to think through how to handle each incident of disrespect, people with this mindset have internalized effective responses so thoroughly that they occur naturally. Setting boundaries feels as automatic as stepping out of the rain. Energy management becomes focused on positive creation rather than defensive protection. When you're not constantly dealing with disrespectful treatment or recovering from its effects, you have significantly more mental and emotional energy available for pursuing your goals, building meaningful relationships, and creating the life you want. The magnetic effect occurs when your energy and standards naturally attract respectful people while repelling those who can't or won't treat you well. You become a magnet for quality relationships and opportunities because high-value people recognize and are drawn to others who maintain high standards. Decision-making becomes clearer and faster because you're not trying to accommodate or please people who don't respect you. When someone's disrespectful behavior makes them incompatible with your standards, the decision to limit or end the relationship becomes obvious rather than agonizing. The abundance mindset replaces scarcity thinking about relationships and opportunities. People who tolerate disrespect often do so because they fear losing relationships or opportunities if they set boundaries. People with the no-tolerance mindset understand that better relationships and opportunities are always available to those who maintain high standards. Peace becomes your default emotional state because you're not constantly fighting battles or recovering from emotional wounds. When disrespectful treatment is rare and quickly resolved when it occurs, your nervous system can relax into a state of calm confidence. The legacy perspective means thinking about the long-term impact of your standards and choices. People with this mindset understand that how they allow themselves to be treated sets an example for others, influences their professional reputation, and affects the overall quality of their life experience. This mindset shift doesn't happen overnight, but it's the natural result of consistently applying the principles and strategies we've discussed. Each time you set a boundary, each time you refuse to accept poor treatment, each time you choose self-respect over people-pleasing, you're building the foundation for this transformation. Conclusion, your new beginning. Here's what I want you to understand as we close. Everything we've discussed isn't just theory. It's not just strategies to memorize or techniques to practice. This is about fundamentally changing your relationship with yourself and, by extension, how the entire world relates to you. You started this journey perhaps feeling powerless, maybe frustrated, possibly hurt by how people have been treating you. But now you have something different. You have awareness, you have tools, you have permission to value yourself. The journey from tolerating disrespect to commanding respect is ultimately a journey of self-discovery and self-empowerment. You're not just learning to handle difficult people. You're learning to value yourself, trust your judgment, and create the kind of life and relationships that align with your highest values and aspirations. Remember, respect isn't something you earn through perfect behavior or exceptional achievements. Respect is something you command by respecting yourself first. When you genuinely value yourself, when you maintain consistent standards, when you refuse to compromise on how you're treated, the world has no choice but to respond accordingly. Some relationships will fall away. Some people will resist. Some situations will feel uncomfortable as you implement these changes. That's not failure. That's success. You're clearing space for what you actually deserve. The person you're becoming, the one who never tolerates disrespect, who commands respect naturally, who operates from unshakable inner confidence. That person has always been inside you. You're not creating someone new. You're uncovering who you really are beneath all the conditioning, beneath all the times you were taught to shrink, beneath all the moments you accepted less than you deserved. Your future self is waiting for you. They're standing in a life where respect is the foundation for everything, where relationships enhance rather than drain, where opportunities flow because people recognize your value, where peace is your default state because you're no longer at war with yourself. Every choice you make from this moment forward is a vote for that future or a vote for the past. Choose wisely. Choose yourself. Choose respect. This isn't just about handling disrespectful people. This is about creating a life where respect is the foundation for everything you build. Welcome to your new beginning.